We start today with moves by Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to counter threats to her case stemming from the halls of Capitol Hill to the darkest corners of the internet. All because her probe involves a co-defendant unlike any other in American history. The first, in a court filing Wednesday, DA Willis asked the judge presiding over the trial to shield the identities of prospective jurors in her sprawling and comprehensive racketeering case that indicted 19 people, including Donald Trump, in the plot to overturn the 2020 election. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution reports this, quote, Willis asked Judge Scott McAfee to prohibit defendants, the news media, or, quote, any other person from capturing any sort of image, from a photo to a drawing of jurors, or from distributing any identifying information about them. Prosecutors write in this filing, quote, the effects of the widespread national and international media coverage on individuals associated with this case is real and substantial. They point out that the identities of grand jurors who voted to indict Donald Trump and his 18 co-defendants were revealed online, and that the jurors faced threats. Willis also added that she was doxxed. From that filing, quote, members of the Fulton County DA's office, including the district attorney herself and members of her family, have been doxxed, causing their personal information to be displayed permanently on the internet. This personal information includes the district attorney's name, her family members' names, ages with dates of birth, home physical addresses, phone numbers, GPS coordinates, places of employment, work physical addresses, email addresses, and social media accounts. The personal information was intertwined with derogatory and racist remarks. DA Willis adds that she tried to get the information taken down, but the Department of Homeland Security determined that it could not because the material was hosted on a Russian website. That brings us to the second move today by Willis. Just this afternoon, the DA rebuffed House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan's request for documents, part of his attempt to investigate Fani Willis. In a scathing letter, Willis says Jordan lacks a, quote, basic understanding of the law. It reads in part, Chairman Jordan, I tell people often, deal with reality or reality will deal with you. It is time that you deal with some basic realities. A special purpose grand jury made up of everyday citizens investigated for 10 months and made recommendations to me. A further reality is that a grand jury of completely different Fulton County citizens found probable cause against the defendants named in the indictment for RICO violations and various other felonies. Face this reality, Chairman Jordan. The select group of defendants who you fret over in my jurisdiction are like every other defendant, entitled to no worse or better treatment than any other American citizen. Fani Willis taking steps to protect her criminal case into the Trump coup plot is where we begin today with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neil Katyal is here, plus former Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI, Frank Figliuzzi is here, and with me at the table for the hour, Basil Smikle, a Democratic strategist and Director of the Public Policy Program at Hunter College. Frank Figliuzzi, I start with you, and we're at the shocking but not surprising that it is a Russian source, a Russian website doxing Fani Willis, viewed as a legal adversary of the ex-presidents. What can be done, if anything, about that?
Well, first of all, I think Fani Willis is taking the necessary steps here, and we can get to that in a second. But let's remember, you may recall that this is the first time we've seen the Russian entities host more than questionable sites and threats and doxing endeavors. The app known, or the platform known as Parler, after it was booted off of American servers and platforms after it was discovered that January 6th insurrectionists were all over Parler plotting and talking about what they were going to do. Parler found refuge in Russia. So not the first time. There's example after example of this. Now, what can you do about it? That pretty much stops the wall. You hit that wall if you're the FBI or U.S. intelligence trying to trace this back. The Russians are not helpful. In fact, they're all in on it, at best with a wink and a nod to whoever in their citizenry is doing this, but more even common is to see government affiliation. Not much happens in Russia of this nature without some acquiescence by the Russian government. Sometimes even it is the Russian government with some arm's length plausible deniability. I think what Fani Willis is doing is calling it out publicly in this filing and saying, look, Mr. Trump, I see what you're doing. I see you. You refuse to call out violence and violent threats. You're inciting these people. That's part of your game, is to make people afraid to be selected for a jury pool. And I'm sure she's anticipating potential juror after potential juror saying during voir dire, I'm concerned, I don't want to be here, I'm scared, and she's countering this. It's a checkmate, it's a chess move, but it's also very real. The threat is real. As removed as Russia might seem, if they're hosting this, it doesn't mean that the bad actors are over there. It means they're here, and they've got GPS coordinates on where she is and where her family members are, and they can do it to jurors as well. And that's what she's trying to protect on a micro level. On a macro level, she's trying to protect our criminal justice system.
Frank, what assets can she bring to bear to stay, as you've sort of educated us, left of boom on the threat of violence that are made on the internet?
So my understanding is the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force out of Atlanta is fully engaged with this, and the FBI has, unusual for them, come out with this little statement a few weeks ago saying, hey, we're aware of the threats going on here in Fulton County. That's a signal to me that they're in this, right? And they're supporting and they're helping. But listen, they can't be everywhere at all times. And Fulton County Sheriff, Fulton County Police Department, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I'm sure they're all going to weigh in on this and do what they can, but they also can't stop the atmosphere from taking a hold here, which is exactly what Trump and his cohorts want to do, instill fear in everyone in this process. So you'll see stepped up arrests. You'll see what is often called knock and talks increase. People will get knocks on doors. What's this threat about? Don't even think about it. We have you under investigation. You're already predicated. They did this before January 6th, by the way. So, you can look at that and go, wow, they stopped really bad actors from getting to Washington on January 6th through knock and talks of predicated subjects. But yet, we nearly lost our democracy on January 6th. So it's good news, bad news. They can't be everywhere all at once.
So, Neil, let me read a little bit more from the filing on the threat to the trial if jurors are doxxed. Quote, based on the doxing of Fulton County grand jurors and the Fulton County District Attorney, it is clearly foreseeable that trial jurors will likely be doxxed should their names be made available to the public. If that were to happen, the effect on jurors' ability to decide the issues before them impartially and without outside influence would undoubtedly be placed in jeopardy, both placing them in physical danger and materially affecting all the defendants' constitutional right to fair and impartial jury. We've seen the impact on people's lives when they're targeted by allies of Donald Trump's. Shamos and Ruby Freeman are still putting the pieces back together from being targeted, smeared, identified, and hunted in their homes, is what they described in their sworn testimony before Congress. How are we back here again, where Donald Trump has now successfully chilled the environment and the location and the venue where he is to stand trial for his role in a criminal enterprise?
Yeah, we're back here, Nicole, because of one person, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump knows that his chances in court aren't looking great. And so I think District Attorney Willis did exactly the right thing here, Nicole. She's right to say, if given the chance, Trump is going to lash out at the people who are tasked with deciding his fate and try and poison them through these measures. And desperate people resort to desperate measures like attacking jurors. And the reality of the situation is Trump is about as desperate as they come. And, to me, like there's two questions here. One is kind of legally, what is the effect of this poisoning of the jury pool? But the other is kind of just like, remember, this guy's trying to run for our highest office. And, whether the inaction that he's done both here on January 6th with Ruby Freeman, when there are all these threats and he knows there are threats and he could easily call out to his people and say, don't do this. I don't want you to engage in acts of violence. But he stays silent at best. if not actively winking and nodding. And to me, if you or I were accused of any sort of violence and, our supporters were going out and doing these kinds of things, of course, the first thing we would do is say, don't do that. But he doesn't. And so that's not strictly speaking a crime, but it is, in my mind, as disqualifying for holding office holding as anything about the 14th Amendment, Section 3 or anything like that. This is not someone who should be trusted with any sort of power or any sort of leadership whatsoever. Now, in terms of what the judge can do, I think there are a variety of things that the judge can do as a result of this filing. I mean, one is to block the juror identities from being provided or shown the images on camera, because this trial will be televised. Juror images do not have to be. Indeed, that's what happened in the George Floyd murder. The camera never showed the juror.
Neil Katyal has frozen. The gremlins from Burning Man got him. He's back. He's back. Keep going.
Sorry, but I think that the judge has a variety of means, Nicole, to try and protect juror identity, and that's really important because we've already seen the doxing of the grand jurors at the investigative stage of this case.